Welcome back, class. We're going to be talking about Chapter 3-1. This section is on checking accounts, so where you're going to put your money. Alright, let's start off with the first vocabulary word, which is checking account. Now, this is an account at a bank that allows a customer to deposit, withdraw, and make transfers from funds on deposit, and you can do that via check. So a checking account, you can have different types of accounts, checking account, savings account, but you're going to want a checking account if you're making multiple deposits and multiple withdrawals, mainly the withdrawals. On a savings account, a bank might limit you to the number of withdrawals, 3, 4, 6, whatever it is, and then after that they start to charge you. So if you're going to be making withdrawals, you're going to want to use a checking account. Next vocabulary word we have is electronic fund transfer via check, also known as an EFT. Now, this is the process of moving funds electronically from one account into another account at another bank. So, for example, if I have a checking account at Chase Bank, I write a check and I hand it to you, but you bank at Wells Fargo. We are telling Chase Bank to take the money out of my account and put it into your Wells Fargo account. So this is a physical check. We do this electronically, and nowadays a more popular way would be using something like Venmo, but it still works the same way. You're electronically transferring funds from one bank account to another. Next word we have is hold. This is a stop on the availability of the check deposited funds until the check clears the account. So you may not have enough funds in your account to cover the check that you're getting, and so the bank has to put a hold. Basically, they're waiting to give you access to those funds until they verify that the money that the check is that they wrote you the check for actually clears the account. In other words, that the other person has their money in the account, they take it out of that account, place it into your account, and once it clears, then you have access to the rest of the funds and the hold is lifted. So that's a hold. Insufficient funds is the next vocabulary word. And this is a check or withdrawal made from an account that cannot be paid out of the account. The check is returned and the transaction is dishonored. Insufficient funds, it sounds exactly the way it's written out here. It means you have insufficient amount of money in your account, yet you're trying to make a transaction for more than what you have in your account. So let's say you had $100 in your bank account and you're trying to write a check or make a purchase for $150. You would have insufficient amount of funds in your account, so that transaction would not go through. If you wrote a check, the check would bounce, meaning that the bank would not allow you to cash that check, or the person you wrote the check to wouldn't be able to cash that check, and the transaction then is dishonored. Alright, those also get feed, by the way, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Next vocabulary word we have is overdraft protection. Now, this is a plan. You don't have to have overdraft protection, but this is a plan that pays a check or withdrawal even when there's not enough funds in the account. Each transaction incurs a fee and the funds must be paid back. So in our previous example where we had $100 in our bank account and we wrote a check for $150, if you have an overdraft protection plan in place, the bank will actually pay out the person the $150 that you wrote the check for. Now, in your bank account, you will show a negative balance of $50 plus a overdraft protection fee, somewhere between $8 to $10 to $15 for that transaction. And every single time you make that transaction, when you don't have money, you're going to incur that additional fee, and the bank is going to require that you place that money back so you can get your account to zero, which includes the money that they overdrafted you for and the fee amount. Okay, so you want to make sure that you are, taking care of your account, balancing your checkbook so that that does not happen. Next vocabulary word is PIN. PIN, P-I-N, this stands for Personal Identification Number, and this is used to verify your identity to use at a bank or an ATM. So when you go into the bank and you want to pull money out, they're going to ask you to slide your card into the card reader there, and then it's going to ask you for your PIN number. That's basically a signature that verifies who you are. The same PIN number is used at an ATM machine. You put your card in the ATM machine, it recognizes the card and the account number, and then to use or access the funds, the PIN number is what authorizes you to use that fund. So a PIN number. Next vocabulary word is a maintenance fee. Now, this depends on the account type that you have, but the benefits for that account will vary, and some of those benefits incur a fee. So I currently bank at Chase, and I have a higher end account. And hindsight, probably shouldn't have done that. But basically, my account says if I have a $10,000 balance, if I have at least $10,000 in my account, I don't have any fees, and I can go into the bank and I can wire funds, no fees. I can get a cashier's check, no fees. It's part of the benefits of having that plan. But if I have less than that $10,000 in my account, then the fee for that is about $25 a month. So, but I still get all the other benefits. They have other options where you can get a free checking account. And as long as you have direct deposit into that account, you can get a free checking account. There would be no maintenance fees. However, if you go in and need to wire funds, there's a fee for that. If you need a cashier's check, there's a fee for that. If you need a money order, there's a fee for that. So the benefits aren't the same, but you're not paying out of pocket with a low minimum balance or anything like that. So every bank has different types of benefits that incur certain fees. Next, we have interest. Now, this is a percent of income paid by the bank to the customer based on the amount of funds that they have in an account and how long it's been in that account. So, interest is earned on money that you are saving in a bank that stays in there for a certain amount of time, and the bank is going to pay you for the use of that money, because they in turn turn around and lend that money out to other people. So they are essentially borrowing from you, and because they're borrowing from you, they are paying you for the privilege of borrowing that money, of holding that money. Next vocabulary word is single and joint accounts. Now, a single account, bank account, this is an account that has one or more. If it has more, it would be a joint account. So it has one or more people who have an authorization to make withdrawals. So if you're the only person on your bank account, you are the only person who can go in and make a withdrawal. But as soon as you add another person, like your spouse or your best friend or your mom or something like that, you add another person to the account, it becomes a joint account, and the people you authorize on that account have the ability to go in and make withdrawals. So be wary on who you share your accounts with. Next vocabulary word we have is check register. Now, this is a written record of withdrawals, checks written, deposits made, and fees paid in your checking account. This is a record that you are keeping. You should be doing this check register every single transaction that's made, so that you have a record of how much money is actually in your account or accessible or available to you versus what it says online, which might be different because you might have an outstanding check that hasn't cleared yet. But if you write it in your check register, you'll be okay. Next, we have debits and credits. In accounting, debits and credits have different processes for the different types of accounts. But for our class, a debit is a transaction that takes money out of your account. So we're going to start with debits. It's a transaction that takes money out of your account. That's why you get a debit card when you open a checking account, because you're debiting every time you swipe your card. You're taking money out of your account. And then we have a credit. This is a transaction that puts money into your account. So if you go in and deposit funds, they get credited to your account. That's money going into your account. So those are the vocabulary words for our first chapter, checking accounts. A lot of different things that banks use and say that can get a little confusing, but with a little bit of practice, you'll be well on your way. Next, we're going to get into the class example problems. All right, example number 1. Mila currently has a bank balance of $2,300 in her account. She deposits a check for $425.33, a rebate check for $20, and a personal check from her brother for $550. She wants to get $200 cash back when she makes a deposit. How much will she have in her account after the transaction? So for this, we're basically filling out a deposit slip for this transaction. And when you go to the bank to fill out a deposit slip, it has different sections. It wants to know how much cash you're depositing, and then it wants you to list each check individually, and then it wants you to come up with a total. Now, this is a subtotal because you might have another transaction, in which case we do for this example. We have the $200 in cash back. So that's less cash received. When you see less cash received, it's basically saying you're subtracting out the cash that you're taking out from this deposit. So we add up the cash, we add up the checks, that gives us a subtotal. We subtract out how much we want in cash back, and that's our ending total for our actual deposit that we're making into the bank. So in this case, We have no cash being deposited, but we do have 3 checks. We have one for $425.33, we have one for $20, and we have one for $550. If we add all those up, it comes out to be $995.33. That is our subtotal. From there, Mila wants to take out $200 in cash back. So we have to subtract, we have to put in the $200 where it says less cash received, and we're taking out that $200. And then that leaves us a total at the very end of $795.33. That's our actual deposit after we've added up the cash that we're depositing, the check that we're depositing, minus the cash that we're taking out of the bank. $795.33 is what we're depositing into the bank. Now, it did tell us that Mila had a bank balance of $2,300 in her account. That's what she started with. After the transaction, after she adds in the checks, after she subtracts out her cash that she's taken out, we're going to add the $795.33 to the $2,300, and that means that she had a total of $3,095.33 in her account after she makes her transaction. Now, the checking for understanding part says, well, what if Mila had X dollars in her checking account? She makes a deposit of B dollars in cash, 2 checks worth C dollars, and she would like D dollars back in cash, right? How do you express that algebraically? So we have to think about everything that happened in this transaction. The X is the total dollars in her checking account. X would be, like in our previous example, the $2,300 in her account. So that's what she's starting off with. The next part is from that $2,300, from that X dollar amount, we need to add in whatever cash we're depositing, and we need to add in whatever checks we're depositing. And in this case, she had 2 checks worth C dollars. So it'd be X plus B plus C plus C. And then we're going to subtract out the D dollars that she took out in cash. So that's X plus B plus 2C, because we can combine the 2 C's. Right, so X plus B plus 2C minus D would be an algebraic expression of what we did in the previous problem. Alright, example number 2. So in example number 2, they give us what's called a check register. And what we have to do is just basically do the math and see how much money we have at the end. Now, there's a couple things to point out in this check register. First of all, the check number on the left-hand side is 3271, and I see another check number for 3272. These are 2 checks that have been written. It doesn't mean that these checks were cashed. It means she wrote out the check on the date, which is the next column, on May 5th. She wrote the check for 3271, the check number 3271, and she wrote it out for $1,721. And then on the 7th, she wrote check number 3272 to Kate's Guitar Hut for some strings, and she wrote that check for $32.50. So when you see that transaction, it doesn't mean that that money has cleared the account. What it means is you wrote the check out on that day. And the reason why we log this stuff on the check register is because when you look on your bank account and you pull it up online, those checks may not have been cashed yet. So it might look online like you have money, you have $1,700 more than you actually do, because the check has not been cashed. And if you go out and spend that money that you have already written off as a check, not knowing, you can get hit with overdraft fees. You can get hit with the check could bounce, and then Debits auto body can charge you a fee for having a bounce check. So you want to avoid that, and this is why we do what's called a check register, or we balance our checkbook. And so those checks have been written out. And then we have on May 9th, we have a paycheck. That's a deposit. Notice they're in 2 separate columns. You have the payment amount in one column. This is a withdrawal, money coming out. This is a debit on the left column. And then we have a credit on the right column. This is a deposit. So on May 9th, they got a paycheck for $821.53. That's going to increase our balance. And then we paid 2 bills. And the E in this case represents an electronic check. So this is money coming out electronically. It could be like an auto pay. It could be that you paid it using your routing number and account number online, but there's no actual physical check. You made this payment electronically. And it looks like on the 10th, you paid Verizon Wireless for $101.50, and then you paid Star Cable the same day for $138.90. And so what we're going to do is at the very top right corner, you're going to see $3,672.27. This is the starting balance on this day. So from there, we're going to subtract out the $1,721 and from the $36.72, And what ends up happening when you subtract it, you get $1,951.27. That's the ending balance on the 5th. Now you go to the 7th and you're going to subtract another $32.50 from the $1,951.27 cents, and you get $1,918.77. But the next line is a deposit. So instead of subtracting, we're going to add $821.53. So when we do that, we get $2,740.30. And then, of course, we have the other two transactions. So from that $27.40.30, we're going to subtract out $101.50. And that brings us down to $2,638.80. And then again, we're going to subtract out the $138.90, which leaves us a total at the very end. When we balance our checkbook, we have $2,499.90. Now, this is what we actually have available in our bank account. This does not include, if you look this up online at this very moment, it might be higher. You might have an extra $1,700 in your available balance online because they don't know that you wrote the check to DeWitt's Auto for $1,721. So you need to have a record of it so you don't go out and overspend, but your check register will tell you how much money you have available, including any outstanding checks or any outstanding deposits that the bank may not have incurred yet. Alright, the checking for understanding says Mila writes a check to her brother on May 11th for $150.32. What should he write in the check register, and what should the new bank balance be? So he wrote a check out, and if it's the very next check, then we know that the next check number should be 3273. That would be the next check in order. Notice that they go in order 3271, 3272, so the next one should be 3273. That's the next check number. And it says that she wrote it on May 11th, so you write the date, May 11th. And she wrote it to her brother, so you can put her brother, you can put brother, I guess. Or I would put Liam, because that's her brother's name, right? And then this is a payment of $150.32. That would go in the payout section or in the debit section. Now, all the way on the right-hand side, we had our last ending balance of $24.99.90. We would need to subtract out the $150.32, which would bring our total bank balance at the end, our available balance, to $2,349.58. Now, the extended learning says, well, what would the final balance be if Mila had paid her cable bill before the Verizon wireless bill? So it doesn't matter the order that these things got paid. They could have been paid on separate dates. What really matters is, was the payment made, and how does it affect my bottom line? If the payment was never made, then money's not actually coming out of my account. Then that transaction is in there for no purpose, and I need to get rid of it because I actually have more money than I am writing on my check register. But the order in which it came, all it means is I do the subtraction ahead of time before I do the other one. So I would subtract the $138.90 to my check register balance instead of the $101.50 first. But I would still end up getting the same amount of money. So make sure you keep track of all your transactions this way. It should just be a daily habit to ensure that you know how much money is in your account and you're keeping track of what is available and what checks are still pending, because sometimes people forget to cash checks and you got to hit them up, pick up the phone, call them and say, hey, you still got that check? You need to cash it soon. I need to make sure there's money in the account. You had a little bit of pressure so they can get it done. So make sure that you're looking out for your own best interest. Nobody's going to look out for you other than you. And make sure you're recording your transactions on a daily basis. Alright, if you guys have any questions, make sure you let us know. Our website is www.csfirst.com. You can follow me on Facebook at csfirst. And peace, and I'm out.